French nuclear tests infected almost entire Polynesian population report.
Here's a summary of the article.
Paris, France concealed the levels of radioactivity that French Polynesia was exposed to during French nuclear tests in the Pacific from 1966 to 1996, with almost the entire population of the overseas territory infected, a report said on Tuesday. Online investigation site Disclose said it had over 2 years analyzed some 2,000 pages of French military documents declassified in 2013 by the Defense Ministry concerning nuclear tests on the archipelago. For the Centaur test carried out in July 1974, according to our calculations, based on a scientific reassessment of the doses received, approximately 110,000 people were infected, almost the entire Polynesian population at the time, it said. Using the modeling of toxic clouds to back up the findings, Disclose said it also showed how French authorities have concealed the true impact of nuclear testing on the health of Polynesians for more than 50 years. It said the investigation was able to reassess the thyroid exposure to radioactive doses of the inhabitants of the Gambier Islands, Turia and Tahiti during the 6 nuclear tests considered to be the most contaminating in the history of French tests in the Pacific. For an aerial nuclear test called Aldebaran carried out in 1966 on the Maruro Atoll, CEA scientists considered that the local population only drank river water but not rainwater. This CEA study served as the reference for the Compensation Committee for Victims of Nuclear Tests for studying the files of victims of nuclear tests.
This post received a score of 4,000, with an upvote ratio of 93%. Here are the top comments in response to this article.
Better article. Way much better, plus I like this source more. Thanks for posting it up.
Just remember, the left thinks the BBC is too right-wing and the right thinks the BBC is too left-wing. So it's probably just fine.
Or it's simply a logical fallacy. In this case, the golden mean fallacy.
Also,
French Polynesia, they make it sound like all Polynesian peoples are affected.
Were they not affected?
Fiji, Hawaii, New Zealand, Samoa, etc. are all natively Polynesian.
New Zealand was affected, although not by radiation. France committed state-sponsored terrorism on a ship in New Zealand to stop people protesting against these tests. Blew it up and killed a guy. Never apologized. The spies who did it served fractions of their sentences in cushy apartments and were later promoted and given medals. France is still pretty unpopular in NZ to this day. Many people still boycott French products.
Greater than France committed state-sponsored terrorism. Just to nitpick, this was a case of state terrorism in that the attack has executed by government agents acting under government instructions, not by a third party funded by the French.
Radiation does not infect people. It's not infectious. Really weird language used in this report. I wonder if there was a translation error.
Probably affected was meant weird.
I rather think it's just a lazy translation because the French word contamina translates to both to contaminate, obviously, and to infect. Maybe the English word also technically includes the meaning of to infect, although it's rarely used in that way, but I've actually seen the French version mentioned a lot in their news coverage of the COVID pandemic.
Or maybe an automatic translator. This sounds like the kind of mistake an automatic translator would make.
When I used to have to stay at Ronald McDonald House in the mid-1980s, it and the Children's Hospital saw scores of these kids with leukemia and related illnesses. The worst one I saw was a poor young girl, just starting puberty and all that stuff. She was confined to a trolley and her legs were splayed permanently open with fully enclosing plaster casts. She had to have a catheter that was plainly obvious.
Goddamn sad face. Yesterday I came across a really great online exhibition that deep dives into what happened and how the nuclear fallout spread during each wave of tests. Really well done and impactful. Link.
Absolutely damning. Their own documentation shows they knew that it'd go in a different direction in the wind than intended, and yet they just went ahead anyway. And with the rain coming, even worse. And then they tested all the wells in the villages and showed how dangerous the contamination was, and didn't tell people. Just let them continue living there. Drinking the well water. Getting cancer left and right. Ugh.
This video was automatically created by Reddit to speech. The article and comments in this video were selected from Reddit according to their upvotes, and any paraphrasing was performed by smmry.com, without any human intervention.